Good night, everybody. How was your day?
Good night, teacher. It was fine, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Well, we are 5 at this point. It's your choice when to start. Maybe in 3 minutes. I don't know. Or if you prefer, we can stay now. It's a 1-hour presentation again.
I thought I can wait, teacher.
Okay, so let's wait a little bit. 8 and 3 until 8 and 8, maybe 4 minutes more.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, so in 5 minutes we start. No matter how many people are on the Zoom call, okay?
Okay.
Okay, let's go. I think we expected enough time. Well, tonight we must continue with the specific topics we were checking about research. Specifically today, we are going to talk about research studies and data presentation. Data presentation, of course, in the context of medicine. But I think it's useful for the branches maybe, and it's nice. Well, here we have some nice ideas to make it interesting, not such a boring presentation. Well, research as a general idea, as a concept, we can say that this is the systematic investigation into and the study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Specifically, research in medicine and health disciplines conducted using scientific methods with the aim of acquiring new knowledge about health and disease. We all know that in medicine, these facts are different because we have the scientific method. But this scientific method can be applied for everything in every branch. We only have to follow the steps. But if we go just to medicine and we apply into medicine, we understand better and we can support it better. Sometimes the result is not the one we expect, because in medicine, nothing and never is 2 + 2 is 4 or equal to 4. We know that it's different in our career. In that way, let's consider this, that scientific methods are proved, are tested, are investigated, previously been established for considering them the specific process of doing this. That's why when we were talking in Module 1, as you can remember, maybe at the end, we were checking that there was a specific branch to become a bachelor for being prepared about this scientific methods for making research. Okay. Let's consider this. It's not the same in medicine. That's why research studies, well, again, as a general idea, a scientific study of nature that sometimes includes processes involved in health and disease. For example, the clinical trials are research studies that involve people. These studies may be related to new ways to screen, prevent, diagnose, and treat disease. Of course, we all know how the experience about it. During the COVID-19, during these pandemic times, we had the chance maybe to be a part of these research studies when we're looking for the treatment and vaccines. Of course, when we get infected at the beginning, we were in research because we didn't have any clear idea about the treatment, that there were many theories. If we can use plasma, if we can use another body supplies, another body supplements, a combination of medication according to the experience, the short experience, of course, we get in previous on early conclusions. But going through the time, checking the information, the results, the supported result, the medicine based on evidence, we could understand that this process was different. And we were not controlling the virus, we were controlling the consequences and the body reactions about it. And this research study, this scientific way to check the information and get the correct conclusion, get us in the times that we are living now. We can be infected, but we are not as scared as the beginning, we can say, compared to the beginning. Now we know that COVID could happen, but we can get the idea. We can keep in mind the idea that it's possible to recover with not too much medication, and sometimes medication is the problem, not the infection rate. Now we know how to screen, prevent, diagnose, and treat this infection specifically, a new one. Going into this context, the case control studies. Of course, one of the most important activities we have. A case control is a study that compares two groups of people. Those with the disease or condition under the study, cases, and a very similar group of people who don't have the disease or condition, the controls. The controls could be, for example, we have two groups, the A and B. A, the ones when we apply the vaccine, and the B, the ones without the vaccine, just a placebo. And we compare the reactions following this medication, we can say, following this vaccination. According to that, we could get in conclusions, right? How important was to get vaccinated in order to avoid the worst consequences with COVID-19, for example. It's the easiest example. In these charts, the pictures from books, newspapers, we are going to check again the definition. And in black and words, we have the specific vocabulary we must check and practice, we can say, okay? In a case control study, a group of people suffering from a disease, the cases, is compared with a group who don't have the disease, the same, but we are in other ways, the control, the same as the previous slide. The two groups, the participants in the study, are compared to see if they were exposed to a possible risk factor or not. A risk factor is something which may contribute to the cause of disease. This type of study is often used as a first step in identifying the cause of a disease. That's why the case control study is very, very, very important. As we were checking the history of the most important pandemic times, we checked how the infection was spread, and according to the population that was becoming on infection during the spread, we get the case controls. But there were so many years to get in conclusion that this first way of checking, of making the control in between our population was important to take decisions and get into conclusions. In this picture, we can check the cases, exposed and unexposed. Just for making, we have the past time for exposed and unexposed, the onset of a study, the moment when we decide to check, to start our studies, and then go to the back, to go to the past, and divide the groups in order to organize our information and get into conclusions. Easy to make. Again, the case control study is checking how the lung cancer is apparently being caused by the smoking habit, right? Just for catching the idea, I mean. In the cohort studies, we have a research study that compares a particular outcome, such as lung cancer, in groups of individuals who are alike in many ways, but differ by a certain characteristic. For example, female nurses who smoke compared with those who do not smoke. I mean, we compare from the differences, not the similar ideas as the case control. We take in account the gender, following this example, and the profession, but we don't. But we make this a specific point of view that differs, that makes a difference from both of them: the smoking habit. Again, our chart. In a cohort study, a cohort of people, the subjects, who are similar is studied over a period of years. A longitudinal study to determine if there is a relationship between exposure to a risk factor and development of a disease. At the beginning of a prospective study, none of the subjects has the disease. They are followed up for a number of years. And at the end of the period, those who have developed the disease are compared with those who have not. Okay. In a retrospective study, the researchers look back by studying hospital records, for example, at what has happened in the past, comparing subjects who have developed the disease with those who have not. In a cohort study, in a case control study, the subjects are only observed and there is no interventions such as drug treatment or surgery. A cohort study is a more reliable method of identifying the cause of a disease than a case control study. But for proof of cause, a trial is needed. Okay, we all know this. We all consider this. Examples. So according to this, we only consider these definitions. Again, black and words with the most important expressions and most important vocabulary. Okay. Again, the cohort study looking for the exposure and the outcome, the result of the situation according to this habit, the smoking habit. Trials. Of course, trials are one of the most important activities we must consider on this kind of studies. A type of research study that tests how well new medical approaches work in people. This study tests new methods of screening, prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of a disease. We need a trial. We need to compare the results from different ways of acting, of looking for information, of looking for answers. And then look, these methods are the ones who are giving us the answer, how our research was done, if it was correct or not, according to the results, of course. And then we get these conclusions. Again, you have more vocabulary to check. In a trial, a group of people who are suffering from a disease are given a particular treatment. To determine the effectiveness of the treatment, a control trial is performed. We need a control trial. Without it, we cannot support our result. Two groups are studied. One group, the study group, is given the treatment, and the other, the control group, is not. We have this experience according to the COVID-19 vaccination in Argentina, when the health ministry was calling people as a volunteers to receive the vaccine or the placebo. They were the bunnies. And they, as you can see, without knowing if they were receiving the vaccine or the placebo, were exposed to the virus. They knew that that was the requirement, to receive the medication, to receive the vaccine, and then being exposed to the virus in order to study, to make the trial, how effective was the vaccine. If my memory is correct, it was with the Sputnik vaccine. So we must consider is the controls may be given a placebo, something which seems to be identical to the treatment, but which has no effect. Usually it's water. If there's an unequal possibility that patients may be selected for the group, for the study group, or for the controls, the trial is said to be randomized. A randomized control trials make bias, error in a study which influences the result. Okay, bias slightly. And additional way of removing bias is blinding. Patients don't know if they are receiving the treatment or placebo. The blinding study, the blinding trial. If, in addition, the researchers do not know who's receiving the treatment, the trial is a double-blind trial. It's very common to see double-blind trial when we talk about antibiotics. Randomized control trials are used to test treatments to preventive measures. The double-blind trials are very common in the United States relating to new antibiotics, checking the differences or not. Well, the patient, of course, has information that he really needs to know, that he has the invitation to be a part of this research, and they take the last decision and make his signature in lots of papers following this information. And doctors who are prepared of doing this and who have the responsibility of this have the chance to choose to get into the blinding or the double-blind trial. According to that, they can control the information and decide which part of the story they want to be. Okay. In a double-blind trial, of course, there are no loyal processes because the patient has the idea and knows about all the risk about it. In the blinding, there is no way to go to loyal troubles because the patient is accepting to be into the trial. But doctors know, and doctors are looking for specific subjects. That's why it's very interesting to do this. It's again just a joke, but we can say, well, of course, he's still in clinical trials, but looks very promising. We have in medicine lots of objectives. One of the most important is so close to the 20 and 30 in 7-year MORS. We have the idea to find 10 new antibiotics at least for fighting against the worst infections, the escape infections. At this point, we don't have anyone, maybe one or two that at this point are still on trials, so we are not without time. Usually trials must take around 10 years for showing that it's effective or showing the effectiveness against specific superbacteria. That's why it's important to take in account that when we say it looks very promising, it's because we need a period of time that could be considerable, could be necessarily proved, could be important for supporting the results with specific numbers and values about our patients. Please, can you give me a minute? I'll be back, okay? Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. My baby was crying too much. I needed to see what was going on. Well, nothing different than the routine. So let's come back. Okay, now we have the variables as a new concept, new idea to check. And a variable is that which is inconstant, which can or does change as contrasted with a constant. The deviation from the type and structure, form, physiology, or behavior. I mean, variables are all the things that we can research, that we can get into study, and have the possibility of changing, of giving us a new point of view, of giving us a new idea, we can say. In that way, we're catching the idea. Well, again, the black words, we can say, if the subject in the study are all aged 50, then age is a constant in the study because it's a value that is not going to change between our subjects. If their age range from 20 to 70, the age is a variable because we can reach data with different ages. That's why a variable, it's that value that it's changing, that has the capability to be different into the research. But the constant is that value that it's not going to change. A confounding variable is any variable which is associated with both the disease and the risk factor being studied. For example, smoke in the case of cooks and lung cancer discussed in Unit 44, as you can remember. Well, we say Unit 44 because of the book we use as the basis. We were talking about how the smoke was the cause of lung cancer in cooks because they were breathing that gases and then suffering from this disease. Okay. If such variables exist, there is no way for the researcher to know whether the difference in the risk factor or the confounding variable is the one that is truly causing the disease. We cannot say that just one variable is the cause of one specific situation. We have the obligation, we must look for all the possibilities and look for all the variables for not making a bias, for not losing information. In this chart, we have, well, a nice example, I think. We consider the types of variables again, the independent, the dependent, and the controlled. The independent, well, the one thing you change, only one, limit the only one in an experiment. For example, the liquid used to water each plant. We can use soda, orange juice, water, following this. We cannot choose this, the independent variable. The dependent variable is the change that happens because of the independent variable. I mean, the height or health of the plant according to the liquid you are using for this plant. And the controlled variable, everything you want to remain constant and unchanging, something that is under your control and it's not going to change, at least you decide it. But of course, if it's controlled, you don't have to change it because you're looking for a specific result from this specific variable. For example, type of plant used, pot size, amount of liquid, solid type, and etc. All the details you can prepare and look for from this information. Okay, let's go into the data presentation. It's nice, it's quiet, it's a good topic. Data presentation is defined as the process of using various graphical formats to visually represent the relationship between two or more data sets so that an informed decision can be made based on them. I mean, all of these charts are for data presentation, and they are supported by numbers, by research. Easy to make. Referring to a table or figure, when we receive information like this, we consider that it's a resume. The most important information and values are here, showing us just the results of the investigation. Or showing, like in this case, the comparison of this. We have specific details to check. For example, the number of table or figure, the title, giving us the idea what it's talking about, the study. There are groups of researchers, and then the variables, diabetes mellitus type, the diabetes, study type included, how they decided to process the information, the result, and the conclusion. And of course, the answer key, yeah, the meanings of all the abbreviations they use this for understanding. Very, very easy, use easily. When we talk about it in a presentation, we have a specific expressions. For example, we can say about an article, you can write figure 1, table 1 shows, and then the title. Or the title, X is shown in figure 1, table 1, okay? In a presentation, you can use the same expressions. Figure 1, table 1, like these ones. Or you can say, as you can see in, and then you give the information. As you can see in figure 1, it's been shown, and then show the information. Comparing variables. When you refer to a table, you will often need to compare a variable with another. And we use these blackened words, these blackened expressions. X was twice, 3 times, as, effective or common, as, Y. As and as, the same as the common English, the same grammar rule for making comparison between similar information. But now, well, we need to compare the variables at the same time. And we have these specific words, double, triple, or 3 times, that, double, twice, triple, 3 times. Okay, easy. There was a twofold or threefold, that expressions that were in homework that they didn't have to be there. Well, but the twofold is there was a twofold increase in the number of, there was the 2 values increased in the number of. There was threefold, 3 values increased in the number of, or the number of X increased twofold, threefold, or the number of X doubled, tripled between the expressions for showing us how the variables, how the information is being increasing through the time. According to that, we can use specific words to give an idea in order to show how this process is changing through the time. And to give the information in a, I think, interesting way, because when we just listen numbers and numbers and numbers, we get confused and it's not important. We lose our attention. Well, personally, it happens very easily if just hear numbers, but hearing there was the triple that 90. Oh, well, it's calling my attention because in my mind, I'm making math operation and finding the value. That's the objective of this, catch attention from the audience and make it easier while talking. About approximating, we can be certainly so interesting. We don't have to read these values, 41.3, for example. It's not correct. When we're checking the slides, we need to round the values for making it easier, making it nice. For example, we can say side effects were reported by around 40 patients, not 41.3. It's better to round it and make it easier. The most important expressions we can use for this: about, around, approximately, roughly, some. All of them are synonyms into this context. Side effects were reported by approximately 40 patients, for example, or reported by around 40 patients. It makes nice, it makes easier. Numbers are frequently presented as fractions or percentages. It's very common in our career to see these values or values like this, because we are going to the point where we can say that we are in the exact point of view, but while reading, while expressing these ideas, these expressions are going to make it easier and nicer. For example, we can say, roughly 2/3 of patients reported side effects. Easy. Or another way, 55 or some 2/3 of patients reported side effects, right? But if we want to emphasize a number, for example, 9.8%, you can say almost 10%. Almost, it's not 10. It's just on the step to be 10. Nearly, okay. The same, there are synonyms into this context. Or we can say more than 90%, 9%, it's more than 9%, or over 9%, for example, right? Or we can go to the other side, just under 10, just under 10, and then we continue with our idea. And when you want to make to seem it small or smaller, less than 10, if we say less than 10, of course, it's less than 10. But we have to consider that these ideas are for catching the attention and not losing this information. About the line graphs, well, a line graph, also known as a line chart or a line plot, it is commonly drawn to show information that changes over time. We have the number of boxes, we have the period of time that we are studying, okay? The two variables. It's commonly around. You can plot it by using several points linked by straight lines. It comprises two axes called the x-axis and the y-axis. And we have these arrows to show these line graphs. We have these directions to rise, increase, or go up as a general example. The opposite, fall, drop, decrease, go down. We have the reach a peak, this is the peak, go up and then goes down. Remain the same. And now we have rise sharply, rise steeply, rise rapidly. You can see it's different from this because of the direction it gets. Or you can say rise steadily, rise gradually, because it takes too much time to get into the same objective, maybe. That's just a general idea of this. Then we have the pie charts, very common, very useful. Of course, they in color are the best. It's a type of graph in which a circle is divided into sectors that each represent a proportion of the whole. We know like slices of a cake. Easy, we all have the experience about reading this. Pie charts are an effective way of showing the relationship of parts in a whole. The complete circle pie represents the whole, the complete idea, while the parts are the segments or slices, well, the same. These percentages always must go to 100, and then we get the correct information. Another example showing this, if you sum up all of this, it's 100, or all of this is the same. And now describing trends. Maybe it's the one of the parts that we really don't like to do it, but it's important to show it. A trend is the general direction in which something is developing or changing over time. We all know about it. A projection is a prediction of future change. Trends and projections are usually illustrated using line graphs in which the horizontal axis represent times. This is the horizontal ones, and this is the time we are studying. There are the variables we are taking in count. From this slide until the end, we have these English vocabulary charts showing us how to describe trends, how to use more verbs in order to check these ideas. As you can see, they are the same we were checking in previous slides, but it's important to get clear on this. There we checked just 3 examples. Here we have 7 examples. So you can see, if you read one of them, because they are the most common, it might be easier to study. Verbs to describe the increased, verbs to describe the decline, all of them. Rise, jump, grow, climb, go up, increase, soar. The decline, fall, drop, decline, decrease, go down, plunge, plummet. Verbs to describe how, well, the adverbs, how this process is done. All of them, take them in count. And how to describe the remain, steady remain plus constant, steady, or stable. Take this in count in order to write down properly without missing information or maybe reading a synonym and losing the idea. That's important, okay? This is a key grammar, the word order when we describe trends. And we use the verb and adverb with the common changes we all know about it. The verb is often in the past tense, but always check this. Consider this information. Subject, verb, and adverb. Well, another way we can use there plus be plus a, adjective, noun, and the complement. There is a slight rise in sales. There was a gradual fall in the price of an X. There will be a steady decline in the number that we know. Just check how these sentences are constructed. Just extra information for being properly prepared on these topics, okay? Now we have prepositions, important. Because if we talk about this information, we must take in account these ideas. A simple description, taking into account this expression. We have the line time, we have these units. It decreased from 10 to 4, from 10 to 4. There was a drop of 6 units. From 10 to 4, there are 6 units between, right? It dropped by 6 units. A decrease in the number of between 2010 and 2014, okay? Or a decrease in the number of, I don't know, from 2010 to 2014, right? Going to the next picture. It started at 4 units. It peaked at 10 units. It dropped by 8 units to its lowest point at 2 units. You can see, like, at 2 units. It increased to 6 units. It remained stable between 2010 and 2012. It finished at 6 units in 2012. This way to make this description is very important because we are using the correct expressions, prepositions, the correct way of constructing the idea without mixing information. It's again, how to organize the idea. We have the fluctuation, we have the dip, again the peak, again the lowest point, and then we have the plateau. We have the reach a plateau. The plateau is this remain line, okay? In this slide, we can see them as a noun and as a verb, how to combine these expressions, okay? Well, it's an extra slide, not important because it was for homework, but at this point, we are not going to use this, so don't take attention to this. And now we have this bar chart showing the prevalence of HIV in different countries, just as an example for reading at home. Take this information for practicing, for catching the ideas, and then checking the black and words into the information. And don't forget, never give up. Sometimes these expressions are not very comfortable to use. This kind of information is not the best, I think, but we must go ahead. And of course, these expressions are useful for us. So let me send you the poll to take attendance while I'm uploading the slides to the chat. I'm sorry for the first point for sending an exercise that was not expected to this homework because, well, I don't know why it got mixed. Maybe, in the previous class when I sent the same information, I prepared just one file from 2 weeks. And while preparing the information for this specific week, I got in confusion. I didn't take out the 2 last words from the 2 last questions from assignments. So according to that, I'm going to see. Well, I think as an extra points could be useful because until the exercise is always checking from the group. Until this point, nobody gets 100 score, for example. But with these extra points, you can reach a peak, a better peak in the homework score. I think it's good. It's a good idea. Of course, we have lots of exercises of this. And in quizzes, I sent a second extra question just for catching vocabulary. I know that this information was not so clear because the picture is not the best, but it's useful. It's useful because we catch more vocabulary in order to practice on this kind of information, on the different ways of being prepared, the medication, ointments, tablets, pills, and things like that. So I'm uploading. It's taking a little bit of time. I don't know why, but it's gonna work. Oh, no, I lost it. Let me open the PDF again. With all of this vocabulary, we are going to work in homework. Okay. Well, you know, as soon as you download the file, please send a message to the chat. Tell me that you got it, okay? For ensure that you got the correct information, the correct file. As always, you send me the answer. I just send it. Just let me send it again. Okay, it's uploading again. Okay. As you can download it, please let me know, okay? Thank you, Hugo, you got it. I need one more fill in the pool. Let me see, maybe one is double. Sorry, I need one student fill in the pool. I have 14 from 15, yeah. Okay. Okay, Jasmine, don't worry. If you cannot watch this, I'm gonna send it to your WhatsApp, okay, at the end. And then Sol, Paula, Anna, Shirley, Maria José, okay. The ones who fill the pool can leave the Zoom call, and that's perfect. So see you tomorrow during the workshop, and tomorrow we are going to work on the file I sent, the second file I was telling, okay, about giving information to Joseph Jones. He's scared to don't take it in count.
Teacher, see you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Have a great
Good night, teacher.
Good night. Have a great night. Well, someone who left it is the one who didn't fill the pool.
Bye, teacher.
Bye. Bye. Have a great night. Well, the one who didn't fill it is out of the session. It's not important to me. Okay. So let's finish this. Everything is done. Let's